So, have you ever heard this, Dr. Eliza? Someone who says to you, I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. Ugh. I cannot count how
It's a
many
long time.
times people have said that to me. Like, I know I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. Oh, no, not true. Or, yeah, because they're like, oh, I'm going to be in recovery for the rest of my life. No. And that's why, and I know you feel the same, we don't believe in forking recovery. We do not believe in recovery. We believe in liberation because recovery is having to wake up and think about food and being good and all the things every day. Liberation is you wake up and you think about your day, not your diet. That's liberation. That's what we're after. And that is possible.
Yeah, we really hope our listeners can understand this. And I think that people get really stuck because recovery does feel like a goal. Recovery feels like a place that must be better than what you're in now. And I think something that's really important for us to articulate today is that recovery might be a necessary kind of step as part of the process of achieving liberation. And I know a lot of my patients that come to work with me say I'm in recovery from whatever it is, rebuilding a function to try to to try to build a functional relationship with food, to try to claim their body, to try to detach from diet culture. And it is possible. It requires reclaiming that power and challenging those beliefs that your body must be controlled or disciplined or made smaller to be worthy. And that's what liberation is. And I also think it's important to acknowledge that this is a process. I don't know, Dr. Nina, what do you think? Is this a process? Is this destination? Is it both? This concept of liberation to you?
Well, it's definitely a goal. We can't just flip a switch and be, okay, now we're liberated. Like, you've got to fight the battle. Like, if you think about it as actual liberation, you have to fight the battle and you have to win. But you have to think about, well, what are you battling? What is the war? What is the diet war really about? And so many people think that the war is about food. And that's not the case. It just seems like it. The war is your relationship with yourself, the way you talk with yourself, your adherence to diet culture, your dichotomous thinking about good food, bad food, which of course turns into good me, bad me. Like, that's the war we're fighting. And winning the war leads to liberation, which means no more white knuckling it, no more labels, no more in recovery label, no lifelong vigilance. It's like living like the struggle never happened because you're won. It's living like the struggle never happened because you've won. And then it becomes something in your rear view mirror. It's, oh, I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. I used to think that way. I don't think that way anymore. It's a completely different place that you are occupying. And you stay there.
Hmm. And I appreciate what Dr. Nina is capturing. This concept of liberation is so beyond food. It's somewhat political. It's cultural. It's these personal processes of understanding that you can have this freedom from the oppressive systems that have kept us here. Diet culture is sure part of it, but fat phobia, ableism, like this concept that you have to be a certain way in order to be. And so, some of you might be thinking, like, liberation from what? Like, what are we even talking about? And I think a good way to think about it is this, like, liberating from this belief that you have to be a certain way, whatever that way that you've been taught, in order to be, in order to succeed, in order to achieve health, in order to fit in with the crowd, in order to find a partner that will treat you with respect, right? And that's going to require some really intentional work. And I don't mean intentional work of counting macros or, trying to find a healthy lifestyle, but rather trying to reject that moralization of food, as Dr. Nina was just describing, and trying to reclaim your agency and identifying what about your body you actually really enjoy. And you may have never had that opportunity because you've been so focused and attached to what you're supposed to enjoy, what you're supposed to act like, what you're supposed to do. And that'll feel like you're in handcuffs your whole life. And we're encouraging you to throw those handcuffs out.
It's a culture war. It's, as you said, Dr. Alisa, it is a culture war that tells you you must earn your right to be good enough and to live a happy life. And there's one way to earn that, and that is to be a number on the scale. And to eat this way, but not that way, and to be good with food and all the things. I just spent 10 days in France. And it was so interesting because everywhere I saw people enjoying food. They were enjoying baguettes and women in France I'm speaking of women, this is for all people, but particularly women who think, well, I can't eat a sandwich. They would be eating these foot-long baguettes, walking down the sidewalk, having a great time, eating their baguette. Or at breakfast, they'd be having whatever. They ate anything. And you go to the market and guess what? There's no diet food. There are no protein bars. There were no protein shakes. There were no protein powders. It was just actual real food, and everybody was eating it and loving it and getting on with their life. You know what else I didn't see? This is a little bit of a detour, but I didn't see I live in LA. Okay, so maybe this is more for people in Southern California, but I saw no fake lips, no fake cheekbones, no fake boobs. I saw actual people looking like real people. What a concept. Like real faces, no fake faces. And then on the plane back, we were like, oh, there it is. The plastic people. We're trying to change ourselves to be some standard of what? Instead of just living our lives, eating the forking baguette, have the croissant, even the croissant au chocolat. Why not? Have it, enjoy it, and don't look at it as a moral failing. Be French. Be French.
I was going to say, we all need to move there is what Dr. Nina is saying. Liberation will be found and achieved if we
Vive la libération. I don't know how to say it in French. That's terrible. I speak some French, but not that word apparently.
More than I know.
we this is a cultural idea. They don't think that's not the culture in France. The idea of a protein bar, it would be mystifying. Why the fork do you need a protein bar? Eat some protein.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the social context piece too that Dr. Nina is referencing. At least that's what I'm hearing, is this idea of enjoying life as opposed to feeling like you're stuck in this goal way of wanting to achieve something, like being so focused on your individual self and so focused on that health. And it seems like I wasn't there, but based on what you're describing, it seems like they're in this space of freedom. They're in this space of living freely without having to police their body and having to subscribe to some sort of external expectations of size or weight. They're just enjoying living. And I know, as somebody in a fat body who's really fallen into this belief that I need to change in order to function, it can be completely consuming. And then when you start to try to enter the space of recovery, it feels like this individual process that you have to, try to, it's complex. And I think that's important to describe is, you're trying to get over this dieting, and yet you still have maybe these secretive thoughts that you have to achieve thinness unintentionally, right? I'm in recovery. I'm going to stop dieting, but I'm also going to think about it all the time. And I'm going to stop saying foods are bad and good, but I'm going to think that they are all the time. And it's almost this secret that you're working against yourself while you're trying to challenge it. And I feel like most of the people that are in quote recovery are stuck in that, thinking that it's better. And I think in some ways it is improvement, but it's not freedom. And I think in practice, we have to talk about that. Like somebody in recovery might work hard to stop binging. You know, they might be trying to eat regular meals and maybe not obsessed with their protein counts, but they still might secretly be wishing they were thinner. They still might be spending a lot more time than they prefer trying to chase this other body that they aren't living in. Whereas someone pursuing liberation may acknowledge those desires, and they're probably pretty deeply conditioned, but they're actively working to reject that belief. And some of those people, as Dr. Nina was describing, are probably enjoying a baguette no matter where they are, right? And having that croissant regardless of what the occasion is. They're just having it because they want to, not because they feel like they earned it.
The occasion, I know exactly what the occasion is. It's breakfast. It's every single day. Every single day, people have a croissant at breakfast. That's what they have. So when you look at it as, I can have a, chocolate croissant, I can have a baguette, I can have a whatever, I can have they have salami and cheese for breakfast, then it's not this forbidden thing. And also, if you're in recovery, you're in it, right? You're sort of stuck in it, but you're also thinking about it all the time, which distracts you from the very thoughts that actually you need to look at. If you're thinking about food, you're not thinking about something else. I just spoke with someone today who hasn't been binging for quite some time, and she said, wow, I just realized I have so much more time on my hands, and now I'm worrying about all these other things. Yes, she's worrying about all these other things that focusing on food was preventing her from thinking about. If you're not thinking about food, there might be other things you're going to think about. And that might be scary, but that's how you live your life. That's how you create the life you want to live. And that's how you live instead of just existing.
I have to say, I was just at a family gathering. I just returned from it today, and there were multiple generations there. And, weight has been generational challenge in my family. So a lot of people talk about their weight, think about their weight, and it's something I was brought up with, right? So it's kind of normal for me to hear these conversations. And I participated in this event in a very different way, I realized, because I was never really talking about food. I was never really talking about my weight. I was present. I was there, and I was celebrating my grandmother's 90th birthday, which was quite an honor to be able to dance with her and sit with her and listen to her stories. And at one point I had this great deep appreciation that for once, we weren't talking about weight. We were talking about her stories of growing up as this Jewish woman and surviving the Holocaust. And I got to hear all of these brilliant memories and stories of strength and perseverance. And I've just been reflecting on that, because I could have used that time so differently in such a less impactful way, where we talked about how we're trying to diet or lose weight, or what dress looked better on her, worse on her for her party. But we didn't waste our time with that. We got to share these really brilliant moments, and my daughter got to see her great grandma in this moment. And I just thought that was something important to share, because we got to exchange all these really important pieces of history, and that wouldn't have happened if we were distracted by all the old crap that we used to talk about. And I was just very appreciative of that, because I felt like that was a sentiment to being in liberation, right? We didn't have to waste our time. And I think that's important, is to know what you gain from dropping this need for recovery and this need for a different body. Just forget it and focus on the things that matter the most.
Yes, I'm sure your grandmother is 90 years old. She's not thinking about, wow, I'm so glad I lost weight. She's thinking about, oh, I have my family around me. I have, three generations. And like, those are the things that matter. No one is going to look back and say, I'm so glad I was 125 pounds. They're not going to look at that as an achievement. So why do you look at it as an achievement now? It's not an achievement. It's a weight. An achievement is to love and be loved, to do well in your chosen profession, to have adventures, to live your life, to enjoy your life, to do good, to do well. These are achievements. Losing weight is not an achievement. And your life's not going to be any better if you do. And when I say that, every time I say that, people get mad at me. Oh, I am so much more confident when I lose weight. Oh, people are nicer to me when I lose weight. Okay, but why are you more confident? Because of the ideas you have about that. Why do people treat you better? Maybe because of how you show up with more confidence, because of what you think you deserve that sense of confidence. Like maybe you could be more confident right in this very moment if you don't tie it to the number on the scale.
Yeah, and I think something like, at least that comes up for me when you say that, Dr. Nina, is, as somebody who has gained weight and lost weight, I think you can achieve those. And I think it can be parallel to recovery or parallel to liberation. Like, I think that you can achieve a healthy lifestyle and be in liberation. I also think you can achieve a healthy lifestyle but still be stuck in recovery. And I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but recovery is often one of the first stops on the healing journey. And it's kind of about getting out of crisis mode. So I think for some people, recovery is sort of a necessary moment. It's ending some of that restriction, maybe ending binging, maybe stopping obsession over the scale. You might be working with a dietitian or a therapist or somebody like that, and getting to a point maybe where food feels a little bit less scary. And I think recovery can help you feel safe in your body, or maybe safer. But the thing is you can be in recovery and still be obsessing about your health, still be obsessing about your weight. And that's what we're trying to press here is, if this lands for you, yes, I've stopped dieting, but I still wish I looked different. Or, yes, I'm not on the scale all the time, but I'm always shopping for clothes that are smaller and wishing I could get into it, right? Like there's kind of these sneaky ways where you feel better, but you're still wishing you could feel even better, right? So liberation is bigger. Liberation is deep. It's spiritual almost. It's like this whole body encompassing space where it's not about your relationship with food, but it's about kind of shaking up those systems and saying like, what if there's nothing wrong with my body? What if my body is beautiful today? And that's a hard concept to think about. And I think a lot of times people kind of straddle both, where they're trying to lean into this liberation concept because it's freeing. And they feel kind of a little bit stuck over in recovery too, because there's still some of those pressures that are trying to encourage them to conform. And I think that wobbly space is a lot more common than people discuss. And that's why Dr. Nina was saying earlier in this episode that it is a process, but it's also a destination, challenging those beliefs that to sneak in, and then like really claiming that power of exploring everything else that's interesting about life, while also maintaining your health without having to feel like you have to conform to something. And I feel like it's a lot. I mean, it's sort of multitasking in some ways, but it's also spending your life in a way that's more valued and more connected, both internally and externally with those around you. And, I kind of think of like recovery as like patching a boat so that you stop sinking, whereas liberation is realizing like you actually deserve to be on land. Like, why were we even dumped in the ocean in the first place? Like, we got this, right? And I think that's kind of a helpful way to think about the differences between those.
And recovery is about food. It's about weight. It's about all of those focuses. Recovery is about food and weight, and that is where the focus is. As opposed to changing your relationship with yourself, cultivating curiosity over criticism, looking at why power instead of willpower, and changing your relationship with yourself, cultivating that a friend instead of an inner critic. Really, when you change your relationship with yourself, then you could say, you know what? I don't like how my body feels. I want to lose weight, but it doesn't become the primary goal. And you could Be there for yourself, supporting yourself as you go towards that goal, not making it as when I get there, my life's going to be complete, or I'm not going to be good enough until I get there. So I like to eliminate the idea of recovery and instead just say, change your relationship with you. Like, that's going to lead you through everything with food. Give up dieting, turn that critic into a friend, think about your why. Why are you turning to food? Is it because you are hungry? Is it because you've been deprived? And of course, we want the thing that we tell ourselves we can't have. Are you eating for energy? Are you eating to calm down? Or are you eating for something emotional? Are you filling a void? Are you turning emotional pain to physical pain? Are you comforting yourself? Are you distracting yourself? All of that is about your why. And that leads you to liberation, because you're taking your own side. And that's powerful, and that's for life. To me, recovery, it's just too much about food. Fork that.
Yeah, and to add to what she's saying, I get into this conversation with a lot of my patients where they'll finally have this aha moment after all the conversations we've been having, and they'll admit that they don't want to think about the other stuff in their life. It's so scary, it's so unpleasant, and it's some level traumatizing for them to address these other pieces in their life that they've been successfully avoiding for so many years, because they've allowed themselves to focus on something that seems much more easier to, or more palatable, if you will, which is these concepts about food and weight. Even though it's frustrating them or disappointing them, it's so much more acceptable to obsess over that instead of their ruptured relationship with their sister, or their damaged relationship with their parents, or the abuse that they dealt with when they were children, or even in their current romantic relationship. Like, it's just really impressive to see people allow themselves to access those emotions that they've been avoiding, and then be willing to work through that. And that, I think, is a part that people are really fearful of, and for a long time are unwilling to even consider and even name. And I notice that when folks are able to push that a little bit, that's when the work towards liberation really begins.
We can't fight an invisible army. We just get beaten up. And that army is all of the ideas and thoughts and beliefs and unthought thoughts that you don't want to think that are there. But if you can't see them, you can't fight back. Liberation is making that army, that invisible army of ideas and feelings and thoughts and all of the above, visible. Because when you see what you're fighting, you can fight back. If you think your problem is you just like cake too much, then you're just going to wake up every day vowing not to eat cake. But when you realize your real problem is that cake is filling a loneliness within, for whatever reason, then you can deal with the loneliness directly. And then you don't need cake except for when you have it for dessert. And that leads to liberation.
Exactly. And I really want to emphasize, there's no shame in where you are right now, right? Like, where you are is an important part of where you're going. And it's all worth the time to acknowledge it, to accept it, and to notice where you want to go. And achieving what Dr. Nina and I have been talking about is possible. You just got to start making a different choice. And that can start as early as right now. I mean, if you're listening to us and you're thinking like, okay, where am I right now? Like, am I in recovery? Do I feel like I'm pursuing liberation? Maybe I just want to kind of feel like my body is mine again. Or, I'm just starting to crave something deeper than what I've been focusing all my attention on. That's totally possible. And as Dr. Nina said, you just need to understand where you are and address this invisible army, and start to know that you actually have the exact tools you need. You have all the skills. You may not have been giving attention to them or thinking you could even utilize them, but you've got this. You are so much stronger than you've given yourself credit for. You just need to believe it.
I just want to add that there was a time when I could not have believed in liberation. If someone told me, hey, you're going to one day go to sleep without thinking, okay, what did I eat, and counting all your calories and macros, and you're going to wake up without vowing to be good that day, I would have said, you are on crack. I did not believe it at all. And how what started to happen was like, so ice cream, I couldn't have ice cream in my freezer. I would eat it all. It did not matter what I told myself. I was going to eat it. So I just was like, okay, why am I eating it? Instead of I will not eat the ice cream, I just decided I'm going to just look at why. Why do I want that ice cream? And shifting the focus of success, not on, oh, I didn't eat the ice cream or the whatever, but to understanding my why. And you can start there. Like, as Dr. Alisa said, you can start today. Just start with your why. Don't make the goal be, I will not eat the food. Make it, I'm going to understand why I want it. And that is a powerful and necessary step to liberation. So all you have to do is flex your why power muscles, and practice makes progress.